Hey everyone, I do apologize first of all if you hear any sounds. I'm recording this on my phone right now. But I wanted to come on here and talk about, an interesting subject because I read somewhere, somebody had commented, I gotta go find it again, but somebody had commented on one of the videos I did. And what they commented on was the fact that both the Metal Virus arc and the Mecha Sally arc were long and repetitive. But the question obviously is, and I think they addressed this in a comment, is which one was worse? And I think they may have, kind of hinted at perhaps thinking that the Metal Virus arc was a little bad, just a bit worse than the Mecha Sally arc. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. When it came to the Mecha Sally arc, and I've talked about this on numerous occasions, probably more so than anything, but I was never fond of it. I don't think any of us were. I mean, again, I get, as I've said many times before, I get where Ian Flynn was coming from when he wanted to, make this story happen. He wanted to go down this path. Essentially his goal at the end of the day was to rebuild the freedom fighters, and thus reintroduce them, not only to the OG audience, the OG fans that grew up with them, but in the process also reintroduce them to the newer audience, the audience that was always wondering why is this group of characters that's not in the games so beloved? What makes them so special? And I think that's what Ian Flynn's original intention was. His original intention was to basically put the freedom fighters in that category of, here, I'm rebuilding them, resurrecting them, I'm giving them a new leash on life, a new coat of paint, and thus in the process, I'm showing you why they're important, why fans love them for so long. So one could understand that being his end goal, that being his end goal, to go in that direction. Unfortunately, as we all know by now, legal issues behind the scenes did not allow that to occur. But we did get the freedom fighters back, reunited and everything, just not the way he was intending, or we had thought to probably be the case going through, that entire story arc. But to me, like I said, the Mecha Sally arc has always been one that I've just never really got behind whatsoever. I mean, as I've mentioned before, it started out good. You could see where the blueprints, were made, not where the blueprints were made, but you could see how the blueprints for the story were basically, sketching them out, kind of like directing them out, from point A to point B to point C to point D to all the way to point Z. You could see all that. You could see as plain as day what the strategy was to get from beginning to end with the story. Unfortunately, like I said, he couldn't do it, the way he wanted because of what happened behind the scenes, but you could see it. You could see the potential even outside of that of where he wanted to go with this. The only issue is that it started to become repetitive. Yeah. After they did the whole 2-team split, if you will, 3-team split if you count the Secret Freedom Fighters, but when they did the initial 2-team split of Team Freedom and Team Fighters, and I think it was Team Fighters consisting of Sonic, Tails, and Amy, that's kind of when things started to go a little downhill. I mean, on the other side of the coin, and I've mentioned this on numerous occasions too, on the other side of the coin, you had basically Team Freedom and the Secret Freedom Fighters doing their own thing, and that kept people invested. That kept people wondering, what's going to happen next? But when it came to the Sally situation, when it came to the Team Fighters, chasing after the Death Egg and, trying to catch up to it, rescue Sally, bring her back and all that, it just got repetitive and repetitive and repetitive with only a few things here and there. And that was it, just a few things here and there. And yeah, they tried to make the story interesting, even while expanding it, I should say, into the Sonic Universe comic, doing the storyline between Eggman and Snively, that final showdown, if you will. They tried to expand it there, with Monkey Kong being involved, but again, nothing came of it. It was only thanks to people like Archie Sonic Forever that in their own little side stories has been able to fill in those gaps. I mean, one of the first issues, has Tails and Sonic, I think, meet up with the Down Under Freedom Fighters, because that's the one group they meet up with towards the end of the Mecha Sally arc before we end up in the Worlds Collide crossover with Mega Man. Basically, they're meeting up with the Down Under Freedom Fighters. I think it's the Down Under Freedom, well, not the Down Under Freedom Fighters, but the Arctic Freedom Fighters. The Arctic Freedom Fighters. Excuse me, excuse me. I got them a little confused. My bad. But they were meeting up with the Arctic Freedom Fighters, and basically explained the situation and found out from Monkey Kong, because again, this is where fan comics kind of help fill in the gaps. And apparently, the gap they filled in here was, from what they put into this, from their take, from their perspective, is that Eggman created some kind of installation, kind of put some insulation in Sally, when he weaponized her, thus preventing preventing the power ring that's powering her, preventing it from freeing her, basically bringing her back to her senses, even in robotic form. And unfortunately, we didn't get any of that in the OG official comic. But like I said, thanks to, fan comics like Archie Sonic Forever, we ended up getting that in that little side story. Now, with that said, though, outside of, a few things here and there, the thing is that the story arc just dragged on. It just dragged on and it dragged on. And like I said, the only thing that made things interesting was wondering what was going on with Team Freedom and what was going on with the Secret Freedom Fighters. And that was it. Nothing more. Nothing more. It just, outside of those things was just a repetitive slog. That's all it was, just a repetitive slog. Because, it was like, okay, find the death egg, or catch up to the death egg, almost capture Sally. She escapes, death egg escapes, rinse and repeat. So you can understand why fans were not fond of it. Outside of a few good moments here, here and there. I mean, even the Secret Freedom Fighters, kind of got a little repetitive at times too, but they still had enough in there to where you weren't so diluted in, asking, okay, when are we going to change things up? When are we going to change things up? Because they would change things up, in a big way sometimes, or in a way that kept your interest. Same with Team Freedom. Now, how does this compare to the Metal Virus arc? Well, the Metal Virus arc, honestly, was very similar. Minor characters, background characters get infected by the scoop and everything, get turned into mindless zombots, of not, circuitry, but just, basically, servitude and whatever, and have little extensions coming out of their bodies because of the gunk on them and everything. And only once in a while would you have a major character get zombified, if you will. And that, of course, would be characters like Vanilla, the Chaotix, Shadow, Tangle, you name it. This would all occur. Those are the only big moments, and they were shocking. There was no doubt. They were indeed shocking, but the problem is, basically, and I do apologize for that. That was a neighbor's car outside. But the problem is, though, with the exceptions of those things being major situations and shocking situations, the honest truth is it was, just like the Mecha Sally arc, very repetitive in nature. Very repetitive. It was basically like most of the time it was, Sonic trying to, keep running so that he doesn't get fully infected, and trying to catch up to the death egg, and trying to find a cure and all that, while everybody else that he's trying to save, everybody else he's trying to save and stuff is getting zombified, rinse and repeat. And like I said, once in a while you get a major character get zombified, and that's it. That is it. So, when you look at these two, when you look at the two story arcs, the question is, which one is worse than the other? Well, I will say this. These two stories need to be a lesson. They need to be a lesson taught to not go down a path of doing a major story arc because you want your magnum opus unless you have plans to ensure there is no repetitiveness, whatsoever. You want to keep people's interest engaged? Don't repeat yourself time and time again. And also, don't lengthen the story out to where basically it takes a year, maybe 2 years to complete. And basically what you need to do is shorten it, focus on your key points, and I've mentioned this before, focus on your key points of how to get to point A to point Z, focus on those key points and go with that. Once you do it, you'll see that you don't have to drag things out for so long and be repetitive in nature. You'll be able to get things done just like that. No problems whatsoever. No problems whatsoever. But when it comes to these two, though, which is the worst? Well, I'll put it this way. The Metal Virus arc had a resolution. Mecha Sally did not. So I'm going to have to go with the Mecha Sally arc as being the worst. Not because I didn't like it, to begin with, and neither did anybody else, but mainly because it didn't have a true resolution. It's taking fans through fan comics like Archie Sonic Online, Archie Sonic Restored, Archie Sonic Forever, and so on and so forth. Mobius Comics, Game Boy Sage. It's taking these fans to fill in the gaps, to close things out, to give stories proper, conclusions, proper, I guess you could say jumping off points for the next arc, and so on. It's up to them. It's been up to them to do it, and not up to the people that officially were who had officially, licensed the comic, to make it a reality. That basically was out of their hands, unfortunately. But it's been, I should say, up to the fans since then to make those, to fill in those gaps, finish those stories as they are meant to be finished and meant to be done. So credit out to the fans and the webcomics for doing that. But again, if I was to look at it from an official standpoint, I gotta say the Mecha Sally arc is the worst. It is the worst. There's no doubt. Not just because it took a beloved character and basically crapped on her sacrificial robotization to save the planet, but also because there was no proper conclusion and it was very, very repetitive in nature. So I got to go with the Mecha Sally arc as being the worst and not the Metal Virus arc, because again, the Metal Virus arc at least had resolution. It had resolution, and that is good. That is good. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to talk about that. Let me know what your thoughts are. Which one do you think is the worst? Do you think Mecha Sally is worse than Metal Virus? Or do you think Metal Virus is worse than Mecha Sally? Let me know. Love to hear your thoughts. Comment down below in the live chat, as well as comment down below in the comment section, I'd say, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. Also, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere. You can find me at all your favorite audio and video podcast affiliates like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Audible from Amazon, Radio Public, Overcast. Anywhere there's a podcast, you'll find me there. You can also find me at patreon.com at bwroses. You can find me at vmo.com at bwroses. You can find me at odyssey.com at bwroses.5. You can find me, ladies and gentlemen, at rumble.com at bwroses. You can find me at deviantart.com at bvw1979. You can find me at inkbunny.net at BW Roses. Also, you can check out the Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also, you can find me and follow me on Twitter.com at BW Roses, Blue Sky at BW Roses, and on TikTok at BW Roses. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are overall on all this. Oh yeah, and also you can find me on Twitch.tv at BW Roses and at Kick.com. But guys, again, let me know what your thoughts are on all this. Which one do you think is worse than the other? Love to hear your thoughts. And until then, you all have a good Friday evening. I am out.